and we have none other than, Dr. Cari Skrdla with us. She is our special guest on this edition, and we're thrilled to be able to have Cari with us because she's not only, such an incredibly intelligent person when it comes to the world of academia, but when it comes to the world of Renatus, education, finance, real estate investing, she's got it going on, and we are absolutely thrilled to have her with us. We asked her to really come in and teach us what it takes to be a successful real estate investor. And she leaned into the topic of 6 levels of consciousness and how to achieve the impossible. I can't wait for you to get acquainted with Cari if you have not done so already. So, Dr. Skrdla, we're going to bring you on out here. We can't wait for this discussion to unfold.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Awesome. It's good to be here today.
Well, we're absolutely thrilled to have you here too. This is exciting for us because this new InvestEdge model is all about not just our practitioner instructors bringing their A game to teach the community more about real estate investing and what's working and what's not. It's about our community members that have applied the education and they're out there succeeding in real estate to also share their wisdoms. Now, your wisdoms expand far and wide beyond even the wonderful world of real estate. So I'm looking forward to our discussion. What have you got prepared for us today, Cari?
Okay, so I'll get right into it. But your last comment, I just felt really old, Bob, like wisdom, right? It's something that you earn along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my PowerPoint. Everyone, I use PowerPoints because I talk a lot and they keep me on track. And Bob can tell you, Jay can tell you, I talk a lot. So
you know what? Hey, listen, but Dr. Skrdla, here's the thing about it is you might talk a lot. There's a lot of people that talk a lot. But when you talk, it's actually worth listening to. You say good stuff. So I would encourage everybody to start taking some copious notes because, well, Dr. Skrdla is ready to teach.
Yeah. And please take notes. I can tell you that a lot of what I'm going to share with you, with the exception of the consciousness element, Renatus family, guest, whoever is listening, came right from the Renatus education, specifically real estate foundations. Like it is one of my favorite courses, so is creative acquisitions. So everything I'm going to share with you in our journey comes from our education. So with that said, and Bob, thank you so much. I just want to, for a moment, share with you 11 years ago, my husband and I, we got married, and we have both been married before for a really long time. And my former spouse is now on the other side. He passed away, God rest his soul. And when two people come together at the ages that we were at the time, we were 49 and 50, and we were heartbroken and just starting over, and really and truly, because we both believe that there is a God watching over us. It was that trust, that faith that had us get together, and it was amazing. But guess what? We were broke because we had been married before, and and assets and things like that get split up. And we tried a couple of things. We tried financial services. We tried multi-level marketing. And then in 2018, after I was just exhausted from all of these things that my husband was bringing us to, we got introduced to Renatus. And my husband got started in 2018. I have there that we joined in 2018, but honestly, I didn't really hop in until 2019. And for one reason, I was just frustrated, but more than anything, afraid. And I know some of you that are listening, you're afraid. Maybe something that I said just now really resonated with you. And that is where consciousness levels really come into play. We came in, we learned multiple investment strategies. We started out lending, And why were we lending initially? Because it seemed like the safest thing for us. I know for some people, it's like, how is that safe? But we didn't really know that much about fix and flip, multifamily, building and land development, buy and hold, until after we became students of Renatus. We also formed a very, very good business with the Renatus Education as an independent contracted marketer. Last week, someone asked me if I could send them my bio, and I looked at it and how I had updated it to reflect being an independent contracted marketer with Renatus is just something I'm really proud of. And for one reason, my husband and I have helped more than 80 people, mostly couples, that just were afraid of retirement or the lack of funding for retirement. And so that's how things started for us. And getting into how then you go from being someone that's afraid, being someone that's pretty much starting over, to being someone that is achieving what I never thought was possible. So right there is one of our projects early on. We're in Soda Springs, Idaho. We're building 40 townhouses. But I'm going to back up for a moment and just talk about the first project that we had back in 2019. I mean, we had a booming economy, and like most people, we started with fix and flip. And I found out something. I don't like fix and flip. It is not my friend. I'm too stressed, right? And because of the Renatus education, I came across something called your investor ID, and was really surprised to see that land development is something that I love, something I embrace, and is definitely my ID. Also, generationally, the men in my family are in construction. My great grandfather established a construction company in Georgia that still exists today. And my uncles were running it. My first cousins were running it, and they were all males. So if there's any women out there that you might feel like this is not a domain for you, if you got sawdust in your veins like I do, paired with the education, you want to go for it. It's an absolute joy. But in between the fix and flip and the 40 townhouses, I had some breakdowns. The market changed. I had a property on the market, and, I didn't lose anything, but it just didn't go as well as I hoped. And it had an impact on me. All of a sudden, I just had all of this negative thinking going all of the time. And the thinking was, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm too old to do this. I'm a grandma. Why don't I just stay with my grandchildren? It was just negative. And one day I reached out to somebody in our community, and it was absolutely amazing what she said. She said, Dr. Cari, you talk to us all the time about mindset. And she said, so why don't you do what you tell us to do and go and use your mindset? And she said, because investors have things go wrong. And she said, and you know what I do and what my husband do, what we do? And I go, what? And she said, we go make more money. That's what investors do. And I just couldn't believe it. And the only reason I had reached out to this person, her name is Amanda Miller, is because I had a spark, just a thought, like call Amanda. And I followed on that. Sometimes you might hear that in your consciousness. Just know that's a spark that's of genius. That's something that's moving you forward. I like to think that there's a great spirit that's speaking to me. And so I spoke with my partner and my husband, and my partner is a realtor in Utah. And I took my own advice and just started to focus on the outcomes that I wanted as an investor. And I started seeing the difference that it would make in my family and the legacy that it would create. And within 2 weeks, my partner received a phone call saying, I need to sell this project and just wondered if you knew anybody that wanted it. and she called me, and the rest is history, they say. Now, moving on then, just to show you a little more of the project, here it is, and that's Ken. He's the seller of the project, and he had some health challenges. He's in his 70s, and his wife, who loves him so much, she was like, "You're done. You're not doing that project." And so we stepped into something that had plans that were already approved, and there were still some other things that needed to be done in the way of permits, but the project was ready to go. And what I began to realize is that I have been operating in consciousness levels 1 and 2. Now, those levels are very interesting. Level 1 is a primal. I'm sorry, I was trying to come back and see you guys. I guess that's not going to happen. But there's a primal level. It's something that you're born with, and all of your primal instincts exist in the unconscious area of your brain. A lot of people hear about the subconscious, the conscious mind. There are gurus out there, but I'm coming from the place of just strict neuroscience. The unconscious area, if you think about a computer, I love Mac. I have a Mac Pro, I have a MacBook. And when I received them and I turned them on, there was already something there. The characteristics of Apple were already there. And that's what it means to be a human being. You're this newly conceived embryo, and your mind is forming, your heart is forming, and there are already tendencies there that are germane to your genetic connection to your parents, but also just what it means to be a human being. That's where all of the things that we have to overcome in life there are located. And sometimes people are impulsive and they do things and they're like, I don't know what made me do that. Well, that's the unconscious area of the brain. The subconscious is like software. Before age 12, everything is downloaded and it cannot reject or accept ideas. It's like a big old dumping ground. Everything just gets loaded in there that your teachers want you to have in your head, your parents. And this is why children believe in Santa Claus, right? Because they couldn't reject that idea. They couldn't even question it. And the older I got, things just started to unravel around Santa Claus. I was like, we don't even have a fireplace. How is he getting in? Just questions start to form as the conscious mind begins to show up. And the frontal cortex that has everything for logic and reasoning is shaping and taking form. So the consciousness level of primitive with primal was already there, and it's all about survival. And then the second level is reactive, where you're reacting to life. Now, here's the thing I want everybody to get. Levels 1 and 2 can really help you to drive and navigate life successfully in terms of making money. You can be successful. You can own businesses. You can be a millionaire. You can be a billionaire. But a lot of times what we see with people that have lower level of consciousness and achieving high income, the rest of their life doesn't look so great. Recently, I was looking at the music industry and how certain artists who were admired for their achievements in the industry and their net worth and all of that, they did some pretty bad things. And why is that? We think that success means that your character is good or you're a better person. Sometimes it's just the extreme opposite. And then level 3 is willing yourself to grow, willfulness. And so I had to will myself to grow into someone that could do projects like this after failing in real estate. And I want to recommend a book. It's called Black Box Thinking, about how you handle mistakes. We're a society that we rush to cover up mistakes, or we run away from mistakes. As soon as we make a mistake, we don't stop and debrief on it and say, how did that happen? Or why did I make that mistake? We don't choose to learn from it. But just imagine for a moment if all of your experiences were treated like that black box that they retrieve after a plane crash to listen to what happened, what went wrong. And they use the box to debrief and to improve things. What if you did that with mistakes in your life? Said, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to retrieve everything, and I'm going to see where the missteps are. That is level 3 of consciousness, where you're learning and willing yourself to grow. And so when you're there, you begin to attract people that are also on a higher level of consciousness. And I would say that there are so many in this community that I met. One is my business partner, and that led me to this opportunity. So we went into the acquisition through seller financing. And when we approached the seller with this idea, he was like, no way. He, first of all, didn't know that much about it. Second of all, after he had spoken with others in his community and in the business, people he had known for years, they told him all of these horror stories about seller financing. But we had a really good plan, and that was to give him $850,000 up front. Also, that was going to reduce our monthly payments. So that's what we did. And we secured everything, signed the contracts, and got started with the project. So seller financing is a transaction in which the seller of the property provides financing to the buyer, typically in the form of a loan. And what's so great about it is we didn't have to go through any type of approvals and any of that. The only thing we were going to need was funding for the construction itself, which we did take out a construction loan for that. But it was just a great project that we bought out from him with the potential, when complete, to make $4 million. And the thing that was really key there as well was, when you look at a state like Idaho, I also have 2 projects in Utah. What was really key is that we came to the table showing that we cared about the community. In doing our due diligence, we found that a lot of the people that we were approaching about these projects, they had what I call legacy land. And they didn't want to just sell it to people coming in, putting up structures. It was really important to them, beyond any offer we were making, that we had the right heart. So my husband and I flew over, we sat down, met with them, and we prayed. And the gentleman that you saw in the picture before, Ken, he came back and said, you're the ones for it. So just be ready. It's not like you can just go spot land and say, this is what I want to do. There's many things aside from permits and city council and other obstructions. Sometimes people are really tied to those locations for very specific reasons. And I encourage you to do your research and be respectful of that. We also knew that it was going to be important to understand why that area. Why do people need houses there? And what we found out was the neighboring city to Soda Springs had employed people there in the mines, and the mines shut down. And man, it really touched my heart to know that we had an opportunity to bring families together. Family means everything to me. And we had workers of the mines in Soda Springs coming from the nearby city, staying in short stay motels, vans, RVs, and going home on the weekends, separated from their families. And I really didn't like that. So that was the economic plan and the economic impact that we wanted to make. And I encourage everyone, like today, go Look at the economic development plan, the strategy in your county and in your city. Start to attend town meetings again. Most of them you can log into over Zoom, or you can attend in person. I suggest you attend in person because you find out so much more. You meet people. I now live in Pinell County here in Arizona, in a city called Florence, in a house that's 9 months old. I'm not going to give you all the details about that, but my husband and I got this house the exact same way. Seller financing, brand new home, and a woman didn't want it. And I was at a town meeting. She was trying to get out of it. And guess what? Now it's our home, and it's beautiful. It's really gorgeous. So you want to really tap into what's happening when you approach a seller like we did, because what we were able to show him is the fluctuations in the market, with us building in phases. Phase one, we complete phase one, we sell, and now we can continue on financing. But also, we're waiting for the market to come back. And he was like, okay, he got excited about it and really happy for us. And we hopped in and made it happen. And this is the completion of phase one. It was right before it was complete. And I'm like really happy about the look of it, the feel of it. Just want to go back here for a moment. My friend and business partner, Angie Bear, she's a realtor, like I said, in Utah and in Idaho. And she started to pre-sell everything. And what I already addressed, the down payment that we gave him, and then the monthly payments that we were making. And with pre-sales, we were able to stay on track. Now, how it worked in this case, like I said before, we gave him $850,000. We negotiated the terms going forward. And the risk mitigation is something that I really embraced. It's like, okay, what if we cannot make the payments? So we had to make sure that we had cash reserves set aside. What if we don't sell anything in the pre-sales? What if we don't have any money coming in? You know, you have to make a list of all of the what ifs, because the last thing you want is a project that's going to stall. So that's the risk mitigation part. Another thing that we did looking at the seller was all of the potential, in addition to all of the potentials for default, but we looked at him. We wanted to make sure that there were no liens on the property. So we went to the title company and made sure there was a clear title. We had to have contingency plans for construction delays and changes in costs. And over time, especially the way the market was, raw materials were increasing in price. So you can't go in looking at a project like this like today. You have to look at today, tomorrow, next year, because this is a three-year project. So here is, if anybody wants to take a shot of this, all of the due diligence that we really engaged in. Like I said before, the seller's credit worthiness, property title and ownership, the seller's cash flow, seller's reputation and track record. And he had a great track record, great reputation that really helped us a lot with getting things approved with the city. And then financial documents. Now, financial breakdown and return on investment was something that my husband engaged in. He is a civil construction estimator, and he sat down and did all of the preliminary costs for us, and the profit margins that he estimated is what I was really excited about. And so you want to count the cost. You want to also count the cost of what ifs. What if things are destroyed because of a storm? Yeah, well, you've got insurance, but how long before you're going to get back on track? Claims take time. So you want to look at every delay, every potential obstacle. So obstacles I was prepared for in real estate. What I was not prepared for was what happened. And I want everyone to really I'm laughing about this because going back to higher consciousness, right? Staying in a state of higher consciousness, because we tend to go up and down as things occur in our life, right? When everything is going great. My father used to say this all the time. Anybody can have faith when everything is going great. He's like, the test of faith is when it's not. And my husband, headhunters, he's really good at what he does. And headhunters were coming after him, and he got an offer to go back into the workforce after being out for 2 years. And the timing of it was really good. And he did that. And that left him unavailable throughout the day when things were happening. But I was okay because my business partner is right there. She's boots on the ground. She's an hour away from the location over in Utah. This is perfect. And then my business partner got a diagnosis of cancer, and her husband had a stroke. And later she had knee surgery, and it was just me. And I made a discovery that the general contractor was not being honest, and had to terminate him. I had another day where workers were all upset and wouldn't come to work. And when I got the call that they weren't coming in, I was like, oh, well, somebody should do something. And then it hit me. It was like, oh my gosh, they work for me. The general contractor isn't there anymore. We had gotten licensed, and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm the one. And construction workers are hilarious to me. And my husband told me, he said, this is everything you're going to need to do. So I flew over, spoke with them, dealt with them, and all the things that they were upset about, and took bagels, and just really loved on them. So those are some of the obstacles that came up that I was not prepared for. And then there was the market itself and everything that was happening with the recession, non-recession, inflation, all of that. But here's the beauty of belonging to Renatus. Every time I would come on the Founders Live, it seemed like whatever I was dealing with at that time, Jay had someone on there that would say something, and Matt as well with his segment. I was getting the motivation that I needed. Or Jay would have someone on that, Bob would have someone on, and they were sharing insights about the market. And Chris Wilson was on, I think it was maybe 2-3 months ago, and everything he was saying, I was taking notes, paying attention, listen to it later on the replay on Facebook with my husband. And it just really helped us to keep moving forward. But that was us. You know, we're tapping into this, and we've got other investors that are involved, and they started to freak out and wanted to pull out. They were like, oh, we want to, can you replace our loan? Can you do this? So there were a lot of things that were going on. And I don't say this to frighten anyone. Keep your consciousness high. These are just things that we did not expect, things that came up, but we were able to respond to nervous investors because of everything that we learned in Renatus, because of the Founders Live and who Bob and Jay bring on. We had information, we had knowledge. I'm telling you, it is not possible, in my opinion, to do any of this if you don't have education and support. And then the other obstacle was just the partners, period. I already shared some of the things that came up, but there was potential there to rip us apart, to get angry. When you sink into lower levels of consciousness of primal and reactive, trust goes out. All of a sudden, everyone is suspicious. And there's this little voice inside of your head that's talking, and it's got suggestions and fear. And if you are not aware of that, you'll be used by it. it will begin to make suggestions to you that you follow. And I saw that threat come up against us as partners and called for a meeting. And I'm like, no, we have to stick together. I don't care what's happening in our lives, what's happening on this project. We are not going to let anything come between us. And that's what we did. So here we are at the questions part. And let's see, I'm trying to toggle. It was really interesting trying to talk to you guys and not see you.
It is kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Look at there. Once the PowerPoint goes away, wow, now we've got visibility once again. You know,
Right.
and that was absolutely excellent. Hey, I'm kind of curious because I maybe I missed this, but was this developed land? In other words, were the entitlements already done so that you could proceed
Yes.
forward with construction?
Yes, thanks for asking that. Because we had two projects. So in Utah, North Logan, we were developing 150 acres, and we were doing the development, putting in the utilities, that sort of thing. When we heard about this one, everything was already established, Bob, and all we had to do was go and build on it.
Excellent. That's
That was it.
fantastic. So let
Yeah.
me ask you, how do you identify where you're going to build? You live in Scottsdale, right? Or at least the Phoenix greater area or Maricopa County.
Right.
I'm broadening it because I just realized I'm not sure if she's in Scottsdale. She could
No,
be
I'm in
Glendale, she
Pinell
could be in
County
Phoenix,
in
she could be in
Florence.
Gilbert. She might be in Mesa. She could be in Tucson for all I know right now.
Right.
So anyway, but you're building out of state. So why did you choose these areas? And what do you recommend for individuals who want to build elsewhere outside of the area that they live in?
So that's great questions. First of all, if you don't have someone there, what we call boots on the ground in another state, don't do it unless you got deep pockets and you can fly there and stay there for a week out of the month and you have that kind of flexibility, because things happen. So Angie Bear, who is our partner in this, she is a Utah and Idaho realtor. And she is an hour away from the project. So that was the first thing, we had boots on the ground. The second thing is the incentive of houses needed in that area. You have Soda Springs, and their economy is primarily based on mining. There was a nearby city where the mine shut down. And so the workers got hired in Soda Springs, but they didn't have anywhere to live. So there they are Monday through Friday, sleeping in motels, vans, RVs, and the company, they're providing stipends and things like that in order to support them with that. So when we came in and said, no, we're going to provide houses, they were really excited about that. So that's one of the key things, is knowing what's happening in an area economically. People call me all the time, Bob, and they say, oh, I just saw this house, and can I talk to you about it? Because I really want to buy that house. And they'll show me some house, and there's no retail near it, and there is no plan for retail to come near it. And I mean, like, there's not even a Walmart there. And yeah, this is a beautiful house, and it's just sitting here. And who's going to live here? Are they retired? Are they working people? There's no freeway here. You have to look at all of those things when you're building, when you're developing. Economic development is a passion of mine. Bob and Jay know that. They know that. I'm emphatic about it. And I get really hurt sometimes knowing that young people are growing up. When my daughter told me she had one semester of economics, she regretted it after that, because I broke out a PowerPoint in the living room and I'm like, let me tell you what makes the world go around. And so you want to really become familiar with that. And a great place to start is just looking in your own neighborhood. We see things go up and we don't know why. And it's not because the information is not out there. I can remember in my hometown of Detroit when I had friends calling me and they're like, you need to come home. And I'm like, why is that? And I haven't lived in Detroit since I graduated from undergrad in 1985. And I'm like, why? And they said, well, they put a Gucci store here. And I'm like, they put a Gucci store in Detroit? And they're like, yeah. And I said, you need to either get ready to move or go back to school, because what's going to happen is you're not going to be a match for the jobs coming up in that area, and you're going to be displaced, and you're not going to be able to afford anything there. And of course, no one's listening to that. They don't even know how to really process that. And the next thing I know, I've had all these friends that I went to high school with that were moving to Tennessee, moving to Alabama, moving to places where they could be employed in low skill or no skill jobs, right? With more affordable housing. So this is why, whether you're a real estate investor or not, no matter what, you want to know what's happening. And that's the best place to start. And that is what inspired me. Economically, I knew what this area was going to do. I knew why they needed houses there. I knew what stores were coming. In terms of retail, it was like, oh, wow, look, grocery stores are coming. They've got a plan. But if you don't see a plan, sometimes they're delayed in posting the plans on their websites. Go to the town hall meeting. Every town hall meeting with city council and the mayor will always turn to the director of economic development and say, can you give us an update? A city, a county, a state is a business. And without a plan, what happens to a business? We've learned that from Bob. What happens if you don't have a plan? You plan to fail. So, did that answer?
Great advice. I'm sitting right here next to an individual who, boy, that was weird looking. Look at that.
It's like you're reaching around her.
I was trying to move hair out of my face too. It's like,
that was great. But Jay came to me quite a while ago and he says, listen, they want me to serve on the city council. And he says, it's going to require some time and energy and effort. What do you think? I'm like, dude, I would so lean into that. The experience that you're going to gain from that is going to be so valuable. You don't want to miss out on it. And now he's a wealth of knowledge, especially on city governments, was so important. I've attended a lot of city council meetings just so that, once again, I could get educated on the entire process. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's just another feather in your cap if you know what they're thinking and what's important to them. Because as soon as you understand the motivations of those you are trying to work with, it's much easier to find cooperation.
It really is. And I tell people all the time, you can attend online, but I love going in person because you get to meet people and establish relationships. And then you start to get invitations. I get invited to breakfast meetings and things like that. And it's really good. I'm looking at some acres here in Florence, Arizona for that reason. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I know you've probably got some questions here. I'm taking up the time. I want to make sure that we get those answered before we go.
Awesome. We don't have too many questions coming in. I did have a couple that came to me though. What are some of the internal shifts that you personally have gone through that have helped you to either find or attract better investment opportunities?
Me personally, the shift was really, like I said, in consciousness. I did not realize that I had dropped to lower levels of consciousness because of changes in my life. Drive is a great way to detect that. And I had my last living sibling pass away in August, my oldest brother. And my big brother was just amazing. He was magic. And all of a sudden, he was gone. I was talking to him one day, and he's in the hospital, and he's so excited because I'm coming to see him. And he's like, I'm going to rehab. And the next day when I got there, he was on life support. Things happened just like that. And the day after that, it was like he waited for me. He was gone, and we were really, really close. And I had already lost my younger siblings, one in 2019, one in 2020. But this was so life altering that my mother, who was living with my brother, came to live with me. And mom is 94. She has dementia, but she's so cute. She's an amazing lady. And we brought her here to live with us, and her mindset was stronger than mine. She's like, wow, I'm starting over at 94. I'm starting my life over. And I thought, that's great. But all I felt was the weight of responsibility, being the only one of her children left, and then having to manage her estate, which also include my grandparents' estate. And I really dropped down to primal and reactive, and how that showed up in my drive. I went from director intellectual to executive intellectual. And you don't want Dr. Cari in that mode unless her heart is open, because I will rip up everything in my path, like control. What is this? We have to move with purpose, And so I began to really see that, thanks to drive, that I was being reactive. And, that's not the full nature of an executive, but that was the indicator for me. And so it really took me stepping back, stepping away. And my partner, like I said before, my business partner, she was dealing with cancer, a husband that had a stroke. It was like we were getting hit, but we stuck together. And I said, I just need you to manage things for a while. And here I'm going to pull on my faith. I remember looking at the scripture where Jesus is resurrected, and the first people that he appears to are the women. And just put yourself in the story if you know it. And they're like running towards him, and he's like, don't touch me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. And when I read that, and I'm trying so hard not to cry, I never saw it the way that I got it in that moment. Like, I'm waking up every day and I'm going to check on my mom, and I'm doing all of these things. And my mom has challenges with mobility, and I've got a new grandbaby on the way, and my brother just passed, and there's all of these things to take care of. And mom, sign this, and we got to go to court and get this. And it's just, I'm waking up every day doing that, without ascending first to my Father. And that was pushing me down further and further. And I thought about, like, the women, when they were approaching him, and I remember asking my mother this, I was like, wow, mom, they weren't approaching him saying, I know you just been through hell, right? You got beaten and murdered, and then, then you died and you came back, and, let us take care of you, Jesus. No, they were rushing him with what they needed and with their excitement. And I'm one of those people that I have people coming to me all of the time, and what they wanted to do was extract, not deposit. And I love people so much, and I was giving until I had nothing left to give. And so that pushed me down in consciousness. And so I've restored my morning ritual by remembering one thing. My grandmother wouldn't even stand on her feet when she first woke up. She slid out of bed on her knees and spent time with God. Me, I sit in the center of my bed. I close everything off, and I pray, I meditate, and I can feel the brain waves when they begin to shift. Right? There's a tightening around here from being alone in his presence for a while, and just taking everything to him. My dad used to always say, any failure that you experience in life is first a prayer failure. I don't know. I'm a researcher. I don't have any statistical data on that, but I can tell you that keeping that advice, and when I'm doing that, I go throughout my day, not only with higher consciousness, but the things that higher consciousness make available to you: insight, intuition, wisdom, and also trust. I can trust that people are going to do things. I can make requests and let go of things and not just have it all on me.
That's awesome. I know we're right at the top of the hour. We have had a few questions that have come in. Would you be available over the course of the next week to go back through some of those questions and maybe respond to those in the comments?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Especially those of you that have the questions, I'll share with you the PowerPoint because it was a lot longer until Jay said I had 30 minutes. So I just focused on the real estate, but I would love to send you the full presentation because it's a half-day workshop that I do on consciousness levels, and I'll give them to you really quick. Levels 1 through 5 go primal, reactive, willfulness, where you will yourself to grow. And number 4 is intellectual, where you're now navigating life based on what it is that you've learned. Number 5 is intuitive. And then number 6 is divine consciousness. And there are a lot of people that have achieved that aside from Jesus. He's just my go-to.
Well, Dr. Skrdla, man, this has been fantastic. Hey, and I've just got to mention this too. A lot of times individuals will go, doctor. Well, would you just share with individuals a little bit about what doctor means to you? What did you get your doctorate in?
So I got my doctorate in neuroscience, and I had no intention of going back to school after I gotten my master's. And it's like, I'm good. And I got in one of those meditative states, I got a really clear direction from God. And it was, I want you to go to school and learn how I've manufactured your temporal bodies so that you can help humanity understand, who they are, basically, right, and what it is they're dealing with. And everything looks like the opposition and the obstacles are outside of us, but they're really inside of us. But if we remember that, whether you call it the quantum field or the kingdom of God, that's what I call it, it's within you. And so it's an inside job. And what I've learned in neuroscience about the brain, there's so much the more we know, the more we don't know. But one thing I'll tell you for sure is that you have a brain. It's like a machine, like a computer, and there's a soul in it. And this is why sometimes you hear two voices, right? And the neuroscience, the one that we hear that's really negative, that might be holding you back even now, we call that the opposer. Because it's in opposition of everything that you dream about, everything you hope for. And that's the one insulting you when you look in the mirror. Right? So that is why I went, and it's been everything from what I just shared to helping people to understand inherited tendencies, as well as things that some people are ashamed of. Germane to just being a human being and how to overcome those things and really live in victory. And I love what I do because I love people with my whole heart. People matter.
And you know what? That's evident every single time we have a conversation with you. Man, we're over the top of the hour. We've got to kind of wind this thing down, but I do want to impress upon everyone the reason why this topic is so critically important. It's not just, Dr. Skrdla coming out here and sharing her deals and the real estate developments that she's put together and the townhomes in Soda Springs, Idaho, and all the cool stuff that you've done, but it is also to help individuals lean into personal development and mindset, because what we've found over the years as real estate investors is that's the difference maker. That's the force multiplier. That's the thing that really helps each and every one of us, because you're going to run into some obstacles and some challenges, and you got to make sure that you are well equipped to deal with them and then to push beyond them. So this time with you, Dr. Skrdla, has been really beneficial, not just for me, for Jay, but for our entire community. And listen, we have so many incredible investors lined up over the next few weeks. We don't want you to miss a single thing. So subscribe to this YouTube channel so that we can bring you this kind of content, this kind of discussion every single week, because it's all about helping you get the information that you need to ensure that you are well equipped in today's marketplace to take advantage of real estate opportunities. Next week, we're going to be jumping on that. As a matter of fact, Jay, who are we looking forward to next week?
Mr. Dane Clark.
Oh.
I could talk about the people we have coming up. We have Dane Clark, Brian Sump, Bill Predabon. I can't even remember who else is on the list, but we have so many amazing people just lined up in the next 4 weeks. It's going to be incredible.
These are individuals that are out there crushing it in real estate. Wait until you hear Dane Clark's story and allow him to share some of the details of what he's doing right now, because he is crushing it. And he's on the finance side of real estate as much as doing deals. It's going to be a fun week. Subscribe. Make sure that you are with us again next week. And hey, listen, if you're, a wannabe investor, you'd like to, or you're currently an investor and you need some fine tuning and we can help or assist you in any way, shape, or form, on my screen, there is a QR code and there's also a link there that'll take you to our Renatus calendar. If you'd like to have a conversation with one of our consultants, just to spend 30 minutes and discuss, where you're at, what you'd like to accomplish, and see whether or not we might be a good fit to help assist you in that, then please do. The information's right there. Schedule an appointment. We'll be happy to help. Until next week, we'll look forward to seeing everyone there. Good day, and God bless everybody. Bye-bye now.
Stick it to the man, get out of the matrix.